Yeah, I've been a healthcare professional for over 5 years now, going on six. The main reason that I actually chose this particular field was because I sustained a injury working out and training the sport that I love. I gotta say, going through injuries myself, I can understand firsthand what an athlete might be going through when they sustain an injury and can't compete or train in the sport that they love to do. It's heartbreaking. Honestly, it really is. And honestly, in my opinion, and from my years of experience as a sports specialist chiropractor, I really think that one of the best things that an athlete needs to learn to do, especially once they get injured, is to adopt proper coping strategies. I really feel that those athletes that can cope the best with their particular injury are those ones that are better able to overcome those injuries and come back even better. Having a negative mindset or playing the victim card when it comes to injuries was not going to help anybody. It's not going to help those around you, and it certainly won't help you yourself, the injured athlete. Having proper coping strategies can help put a positive spin on a negative situation, and that really would lead to the best outcomes by far. So in this video, we're going to go over 4 different coping strategies the athlete can go through. Coping strategy number 1, stay involved. Even though you might be benched right now for a particular injury, you're still part of the team. So show up for practice, show up for games, be there to support your fellow teammates, and still be involved in that atmosphere. Number 2, imagery. Now, imagery is one of those things that you can do almost any time in order to keep up with a particular skill that your sport has. Now, most sports have some kind of skill aspect associated with it. I mean, really, name it. Name a sport that has no skill whatsoever. There's really none out there. One of those things that you can do to keep up with that skill is imagery. So what you're going to do is actually visualize the particular sport movement that you're going through. So if you're a golfer, you're going to just stand up, close your eyes, and imagine a golf swing. Imagine the way the club feels on your fingers. Imagine the breath that you're taking in. Imagine the wind that's breezing by. Imagine the ball in front of you, where you're looking, all those different things. The more detail that you can be in your imagery, the better it is. Lots of research have shown that even if you're not practicing the sport physically, if you mentally practice it in your mind, it really helps to keep up that skill level when you get back to it. So keep up with the imagery and practice that on a daily basis. Tip number 3, maintain your fitness levels. Now, even though you might have a particular body part that is injured, there is always a workaround that you can do. There's still exercises that you can do to maintain your fitness levels without impairing the injured area. Now, the healthcare professional that you're working with, either it's a chiropractor, physiotherapist, massage therapist, osteopath, I don't care who it is, they should be the ones to help you figure out what's the best route for you in this particular case. Because every case is going to be different. So they are the ones that are best equipped to help guide you personally to figure out what exercises might be best for you to work on, other than your rehab exercises, of course, but just something so that you maintain your higher level of fitness. Tip number 4, patience. We're playing the long game here, okay? It's a marathon, not a sprint. You can't rush your rehab process. I mean, the same way that if you're 100%, you're at the gym, you can go from squatting 100 pounds one day, then the next day going up to 400 pounds. It's not possible. There's a steady progression that you have to go through. Same thing with rehabilitation. You have to go through the certain steps, achieve the certain milestones before you're able to go to the next level. So patience is key. You don't want to go back too soon, because then you risk re-injuring yourself and just being back at square one. It's a big waste of time. Trust me, I've been there. Patience is the key. Now, in my own personal experience, it's been about almost a month now since I injured my wrist when I was in Italy. And I gotta say, it's taken me a little bit of a time to actually take a step back myself and take my own advice. So the way that I'm applying these particular tips and tricks, number 1, staying involved? Well, I'm still involved in the community of kettlebell sport. I'm part of like a Facebook group. We still communicate on a daily basis. It's fun. It's a way for me to stay involved in the sport, even though I'm not competing at it right now at its fullest. Another thing that I'm going to be doing is that there's a competition next month in Toronto, and guess what? I'm still going to compete, but with my left arm only. Granted, I'm not going for any ranks or anything like that. I know that I'm not going to perform terribly well or get a spectacular number, but guess what? I'm still staying involved. So number 2, when it comes to imagery, I'm closing my eyes and I'm visualizing the jerk. I am visualizing the first dip, second dip, the way that the chalk feels on my hand, imagining all that stuff, because that'll help once I do come back to kettlebell sport to keep up that skill level and to kind of pick up where I left off. Another fun little tip here, and this is something that Dr. Neil Widmeyer, my sports psychology prof in undergrad, taught me, is to write down on a piece of paper the description of a particular movement in your sport. So in my particular case, kettlebell sport. So at the time I was training a long cycle, and he told me, write down every single step you go through for 1 rep. And I mean every little tiny detail. So for a repetition that takes about a couple of seconds to perform, I wrote about 4 pages front and back. Front and back! That's quite a bit of single line and everything like that. So I was incredibly detailed with that, and it really made me reflect and truly appreciate all the subtle nuances that's going in my mind when I'm doing a particular rep. So whatever your sport is, if it's hockey, talk about taking a slap shot, what you're feeling, all the things around you. If it's a golf swing, like I mentioned earlier, the way that the club feels in your hands, the sun shining down, imagine all of those particular things, write it all down, chart it out. It'll really help you to truly appreciate the finer aspect of your sport a little bit better. And like I mentioned again, once you get back to your sport, you'll be that much more ahead of the game than if you were to not do it at all. Number 3, maintaining fitness levels. One of the things I've been doing is I've actually been working a little bit more on my squats. Historically, squats is not something that I've been terribly strong at by any means, and even when I was competing on my fullest in kettlebell sport, my legs were always kind of my weak point, and I would just kind of gas out and my legs would always just burn up like crazy. So while I've been unable to do kettlebell sport to its fullest, what I'm doing is actually concentrating a lot more getting strength into my squat. What I've also been doing too is starting to reincorporate kettlebell sport stuff, but again, just with the left hand. So I'm doing 1-arm jerks, I'm doing snatches, swings on my left hand. Yes, I understand that I might be a little bit unbalanced when I come back, and my right arm I need to catch up, and I fully understand that, but I'd rather do that than just detrain the upper body 100%. So I found my workaround. And number 4, patience. That's the thing that's always been tough for me personally. And it's one of those things I truly need to, take my own advice more often when it comes to this, especially. When I first came back from Italy with my injured wrist, I kind of maybe jumped the gun a little bit on my rehab. I started to do things I'm not quite ready for, and reflecting on it, I kind of understand that I might have been jumping the gun a little bit. So I've actually taken a bit of a step back from my own rehab for my wrist, and really doing things a little bit more slowly, a little bit more gradually, to make sure that I heal this right the first time. And before we close this video, I really want to talk about something a little bit more important, so please stick around for this last part. Like I mentioned earlier, proper coping strategies is key when it comes to dealing with an injury, putting a positive spin on a negative situation. But unfortunately, some athletes might not be able to cope well with their injury and start spiraling downwards, and in some severe cases have some kind of depression. And unfortunately, it's still a bit of a stigma when it comes to athletes and mental health. Asking for help is a sign of strength, and help is available to you. Below in the description, I put in several links and phone numbers that are available to us here in Canada, so that if you need somebody to talk to, they are there to help you. If it's a very extreme situation, please contact 911. They will help you. So if you're an injured athlete out there, remember, Stay positive, follow these 4 steps, talk to somebody if you need to. Thanks very much for watching. We'll see you next time.